Today we're going to be mixing things up a bit, and I'm going to be talking about what it was like for me growing up in the 70s and 80s on the family farm. If you're new here, my name's Deb, and if you're enjoying the content that I'm putting out, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you know when I upload a new video. I'm going to be sharing 10 childhood mishaps, 2 stabbings, 2 concussions, a broken leg. Stay through to the end, and if you can relate to any of these incidents, please put an elephant emoji in the description box down below. Now, without further ado, let's start. Number 1. I am located on the east coast of Canada.
Most committed students on Prince Edward Island,
where it is normal, especially in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, to get snowfall amounts that go up to the telephone poles. I will be sure to link some pictures for reference. You may be shocked. With that being said, my dad didn't always have a big tractor and plow out the whole yard. And we would have to walk across the yard to go to the barn where a lot of us would work. So when I was younger, maybe 4 or 5, I was on top of the snow walking with my dad. It was probably dusk or maybe starting to get dark. And there was like a crevasse and I fell through and was totally engulfed in the snow above me. And if my dad wasn't walking behind me, all I could feel is his hand reach down to the back of the hood of my jacket and lift me up out of this crevasse and the snow. And if I would have been home alone or walking alone, I probably would have suffocated in that snow. Number 2, I was taught how to drive our ride-on lawnmower.
Lawnmower?
I don't know, I might have been 9 or 10. I might even not have been that old. So I was taught how to use the ride-on lawnmower. And I happened to be cutting the grass on the side of the house. And my dad had not only a hose, but an electrical cord going from one greenhouse to the main greenhouse. So I'm doing the side of the lawn and then all of a sudden realize I'm coming across the hose and the electrical cord. And I knew enough that slicing either could be
electrocution?
Potentially really dangerous, if not fatal. Now realizing that I was on the lawnmower and on rubber tires, and even if I severed it, probably wasn't going to get electrocuted. But the catch would have been how to get off the lawnmower, ground myself, and not be electrocuted. So needless to say, I held onto the steering wheel, closed my eyes as I rode over the hose and the electrical cord, and breathed a sigh of relief when there was no water or sparks flying. Oh my God, that was just so terrifying. And you know what? I think I blacked out cutting the rest of the lawn after that because I have no idea if I stopped and went and told Dad or what happened. Now we're gonna move on to playing in the grain bin. I'll try and put visuals so that you can see where I'm going with these stories. So my sister and I think my sister was probably about 4, so I was 8, and it was the summertime or the spring, and there was 3 bars across the top of it, and I was over under. You know how you used to be on the monkey bars, over under? And there was just something that came over me and I thought, gosh, wouldn't it be absolutely horrible if one of these bars let go? I didn't sooner get the premonition out of my head when, bam, the bar let go. I went crashing on my head to the bottom of the grain bin, knocked myself out cold. I remember my sister getting me conscious and getting me up and trying to convince me to go put my leg up and over to the ladder and down to the ground. And her recollection of the event is that she did get me up and over, but I didn't climb down the ladder she just dropped me down to the ground. And then she crawled down and walked me over to the yard. And I think she might have been yelling and screaming.
Mom? Mom?
And my mom come out and was standing on the steps of the front door, and my sister had said I fell. And that's the last thing I remember till late at night when I came to. So I had a concussion. They took me in the house. They put me on the couch and I went to sleep. I woke up around 9 o'clock at night. The neighbors were over. They were all playing cards and socializing and partying.
Party, party, party! Party, party, party!
I had the biggest headache I could ever recall and cried. It was so horrible, and asked, I think, definitely for a cup of tea as I laid there, never taken to the doctor, never had an x-ray or a CT scan, put to sleep or laid down with a concussion at 8 years old. Next one in story time. This would have been, we had a wagon that we would latch onto the tractor, and this wagon only had 2 wheels in the center. So it would be like a teeter-totter.
Teeter-totter since early
And it was outside of our bunkhouse where all the hired men, and we would go there every day. That's where we had our meals, was in the bunkhouse twice a day, lunch and supper. So I happened to be playing outside with siblings and cousins, and I was on my bare feet, and I was sliding back and forth on this wooden wagon. Do you see where this is going? Well, I happened to slide all the way down to the end of the wagon, and didn't the front or the fat of my foot catch this piece of wood that was loose, and it went stabbing in under the front of my foot.
Splintered.
And my foot was now filled with hundreds and hundreds of splinters. So I guess there probably was a lot of screaming involved. I do not remember. My mom and my mom's sister, my Aunt Irene, took me over to the main house. I remember sitting on the dryer, the tweezers and the nail clippers and a little sewing needle that had been sterilized, all with like a match or a lighter, some iodine, and they one by one painstakingly removed each little splinter out of my foot and then put on iodine. Anyway, no infection. My foot healed completely, and there's absolutely no scar and no residual visions that accident even happened. The next one would be, we had 3 greenhouses, and they all had plastic covering, and it was wintertime. But we would climb up to the top of the greenhouse, and then in our snowsuits, because the snow would be on the plastic, it was like this great, slide.
It's just sledding down a big old hill towards the front.
And boom, catapult off the end of the greenhouse. And as kids, we were just in our glory. But one thing about plastic in winter is with the cold, it can sometimes snap. So what happens? I'm cruising down. The plastic splits and cracks. I fall through. I actually hit one of the beams going across that held up the A-frame greenhouse, which I guess broke my fall, but landed on my back, on my lungs. Could hardly breathe, I hit so hard. And of course, the beds of the greenhouse aren't very soft when they're frozen solid in winter. But me, 5 or 6 years old, realizing I'm pretty sure I was out there playing by myself. The snow had all packed around the greenhouse. So both doors were closed. So I thought, whoa, I might be in trouble here. No one knows I'm here. I'm snowed in. The only way out is to crawl back up through the roof in that hole where I fell in. And I think that's what I ended up doing. But I ended up going to the side, climbing up, balancing across the beam, and trying to hoist myself up and crawl through the hole where I fell through and slide back down and got out. And I don't think anybody was none the wiser. And I often wonder if I ever went in the house and shared my stories of things that happened to me, or if I was afraid I would get into trouble.
Your sister's in trouble.
For doing what I wasn't supposed to be doing and just kept all these things a secret. If you've kept a secret of things that you've done as a child that you knew you weren't supposed to do so you wouldn't get in trouble, if you did, leave a snowflake emoji in the description box down below if you can relate to that story. So the next one was, it happened to be before school. I was probably 10 or 11 and I was trying to change the yo-yo string. The bus was coming. I thought, oh my gosh, I gotta change this yo-yo string before I go to school. So off to the kitchen I go to grab a knife. So I got the patat selda, and here I am with yo-yo in hand. Here I am with knife in hand, trying to cut really, really fast and rush so I would catch the bus and change the yo-yo string, and the tip of the knife went in to my hand. So then, all of a sudden, I'm bleeding everywhere. I'm in a hurry, trying to catch the bus, trying not to be late, trying not to get in trouble, call to my sister, get a Band-Aid, but ran out the door, off to school and off to the bus, like nothing ever happened.
There's nothing here to see.
Keeping in tune with stabbing, where I had seen somewhere this DIY birdhouse made out of a coffee can. And basically what you had to do is you had to cut across the top of the can, cut across the bottom of the can, down the center, and open the two flaps of the coffee can, and then put in your bird seed, put it on a stick or whatever in a tree, and voila, your birdhouse. So Deb, again, thinks that she can just cut it all out with a little knife out of the kitchen drawer. So I go into the bathroom, got the can in my hand, I'm leaning in on the can, trying to cut, and what happens when it's a round can?
Thing around that I can stab myself with.
The knife slips, stab myself in the hand, and oh my God, the fat of the hand had just all swelled up. You could actually see the layers of skin. And it bled like a mother. Oh my gosh, I'm sure I turned white as a ghost. And I went out to my sister and I'm like, you gotta help me pad this up, help me. And I swore her to secrecy. Don't you tell on me. Don't you dare tell on
I need to swear you to secrecy.
me. And I'm sure I probably uttered some kind of threat where I would take her favorite stuffed toy. And I had this big, profuse, gaping, fleshy wound on the palm of my hand. I didn't even go get stitches. I just taped it up. I'm sure I would have probably had 10 or 12 stitches for the layer of skin. But no. And didn't get infected. That old iodine. I don't know if anyone else uses iodine out there today. But if you do, leave like the ink writing pen emoji in the description box down below if you can relate to that story. Now, where are we? We are with the elephant wagon. I grew up on a family farm, and for many years we grew tobacco. Yes, tobacco. And I will put a picture of an elephant wagon here so that you can have visuals and take you where I am. So we happen to unload the kiln tobacco, and it's on the elephant wagon, and we back the elephant wagon into the big barn. And the elephant wagon extended out was 3 like ladders, and we would put in big like 2x12s across that would be boards that you could to help load the tobacco out of the kilns onto the elephant wagon. And wasn't there a bird's nest above the door? And the birds were all chirping, and Dad could see my eyes looking up, and he's like, don't you get any ideas. You leave those birds in that bird nest alone. I'm out by myself in the barn, and I climb up to the top of the elephant wagon, and I somehow see if I can climb from the top of the elephant wagon on to the barn door. Now, this is a rolling barn door, right? This is a big 20-foot rolling barn door that I'm sure if I did get to climb onto it, would have probably rolled down, squeezed me in between that and the frame, and I would have been crushed. But common sense prevailed. Go figure. Common sense prevailed. This young girl, and she's like, nope, I'm going to listen to my father, and I'm not going to go after the little birdies in the bird nest. I think all is well, so I jumped down off of the top of the tobacco pile onto the 2x12 board that's now a ladder. And wasn't the 2x4 just on the very edge of the ladder rung? And as I jumped down onto it,
Falling off a stupid ladder.
it lets go. So I fall almost from the top of the elephant wagon tobacco pile to the concrete floor. Now, by the grace of God, my feet caught the edge of the board to break my fall a little bit, and when I hit the ground, the tip of my toes hit first before my knees and my wrists. But it felt like, I'm sure I had a Jesus moment. I felt like I had the biggest metal spikes driven through my bones. And I laid there on the concrete floor, no one around, everybody in the house having supper. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be in so much trouble. I couldn't even get up and walk.
Yes, I can crawl. I can crawl like Skylar.
I crawled like Spider-Man crawls up the side of a building, all the way from the barn to the house. Then finally got enough gumption to get on my feet and barely be able to walk into the house and pretend like nothing happened. I was in so much pain, I didn't sleep for weeks. And I do remember complaining about the pain for quite a while when my mom said, do we need to take you to the doctor? Like, do you need to be checked out? Because, you're complaining about being in a lot of pain. So if you happen to see in my knee and you probably heard it crack, that the cushion that's under your kneecap that kind of stops your femur from rubbing against the bone that's from your knee to your ankle. So every time I bend my knee, my femur snaps against that bone as there's no cushion. So I grew up my whole life not having this cushion or this padding between the two bones.
That one hurt.
Yeah, that one hurt. I happened to be driving my bike. It's only probably a mile road. It was a mile from the neighbors. And I'm on my bike and I'm pedaling away and I go up the hill. And didn't this stick from the side of the road end up catching in the front spoke of my tires? And then my bike stopped dead and I went over the handlebars and on to the concrete road or the asphalt, and no bike helmets, and knocked myself out cold. Concussion number 2. And I have no idea how long I laid on the side of the road, and thank gosh nothing came up over the hill, because it was a blind hill and I don't think they would have had time to stop before I would have been laid and sprawled on the side of the road, knocked out cold. I eventually came to, got on my bike, was within eyesight of home, pedaled the rest of the way, went in the driveway like nothing happened.
Mother! Nothing's happening here.
This is childhood mishap number 10. Like I said earlier, I had played soccer, boy and girl soccer teams, and I had played like up to AAA soccer on the boys team until under 16. And then the PEI Soccer Association decided that no longer girls and boys could play together and that there was too much physical and sexual difference and it just wasn't appropriate for me to any longer play with the boys. So friends of ours, we all started this girls rec league. And because I had years and years of experience and normally played like center half or center, but this particular game, we were going to the playoffs and we were heading into Bluefield School and they got me to play goalie. Our goalie, Libby Kennedy, could not make it to play goalie that game. So they decided because I had all of this experience, they put me in at goalie. So here we are playing the game and Diane Stevenson happens to be on the opposing team and she's almost on a breakaway coming down the side of the field. And I run out to the top of the 24-yard box and she kicks the ball too far in front of her. So I go down and trap the ball and my knee is sticking up. And as she tries to run past me and avoid me, her knee caught the inside of my knee and my femur, like Kinlan, snapped 3 places above the knee. I lay on the ground. The one bone is under the other bone, so there's this big hump. I wait for the ambulance to be called, and the ambulance comes. I go into the hospital. They take an x-ray, and lo and behold, I had, yes, officially broke my femur 3 places above the knee. And thank God I didn't know then what I know now. But the ironic part was, growing up in the family farm, harvest was starting that Monday, and this was Friday night or Saturday. And I happened to be running a little late, and my ride is out in the yard honking, and I'm rushing to get my stuff, and my dad is like eating supper, and he says to me, "Yeah, don't come home with any broken bones, eh, Deb?" And I'm like, yeah. And as I have to walk past him to go out the door to get in the car. He just happens to touch my arm and looks me dead in the eyes and says, "I mean it, girl. Don't come home with any broken bones." And hours later, he comes into the hospital and sees his little girl with a broken femur. I was in the hospital for 18 days. Because I was 15 years old, I was 5 feet tall and 100 pounds, but they opted for surgery. They put in a plate and 8 pins, and by pins I mean what looked like good old-fashioned deck screws. And I ended up losing 32 pounds in 18 days, ended up going home after 18 days. My mom ended up having to hem and bring in my sister's clothing so that I would have pants to wear to school. I started grade 10 weighing 68 pounds. But yeah, those are 10 of the major and not so major mishaps that happened to me growing up on the family farm. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, give it a like, share it with someone who may have gone through similar things. And thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.